Hey guys, Cool Hand here. Good afternoon, good morning, whatever the case may be with you, whenever you're watching this, listening to it, however you want to do it. Anyway, here to talk to you about aerial gunnery today. Just a few tips I've picked up on since I've been flying IL-2 and other air combat flying games in general. There's like three main things I want to talk about with you here. We'll first talk about the gun sight, the brightness settings, like what I would suggest for you to do. Second to be coordinated flight and trim. I know that's kind of a touchy subject for different people, as everybody seems to have a different idea on it. And like everything else, your mileage may vary. It may work for you, it may not. Like I say, these are just things that have improved my shooting and what I've picked up on, my years of playing this game. Okay, so let's talk about the gun sight real quick. The 109, you have a pretty decent gun sight. It's not a lot of information on it, unfortunately. I think the later models actually have distance ticks and different things on each the bars here, and that would be pretty handy to have. But what you have now, anyway, is actually pretty informative. You can judge distances really well with it, as long as you can the wingspan of your target. Like for me, typically I don't shoot, say like a Spitfire for instance, until he's at least his wingtips are touching the insides of these circles, and he's getting pretty close to my convergence of 150 meters, my horizontal convergence that is, and that's typically where I like to shoot. Any closer is just all the better, until he gets too close and he's inside your convergence. But we'll talk about convergence here in a moment. For brightness, I actually don't like it turned up too far. Like that's way too far for me. My thinking is I like to be able to see through the gun sight without actually having to focus on the gun sight. Let's find a forest down here. Let me show this to you. Here we go. It's a nice dark forest. As you can tell, the gun sight's not too bright. It's not overbearing. But when I turn it up like this, I tend to actually just I focus on the gun sight. I call it a contrast distraction almost, and I have a hard time shooting because I'm actually looking at the gun sight more than I am at the target behind the gun sight. So it's kind of a nitpicky thing, I know, but it's just one little tidbit that I've picked up on since like I say, I've been flying. And in here, especially with the gunnery the way it is, it's you want every advantage you can possibly have. The second thing I want to talk about is coordinated flight. Always, always, always stay coordinated. I've heard that since the first day of my flight training. I'm actually a pilot in real life, so it's one thing you always want to pay attention to. There's no... Well, I should put it this way. There's no downside to flying coordinated as much as possible. You retain your energy better. You can pull harder maneuvers without having to worry about spinning or stalling out. I mean, you'll stall, but I mean the stalls will be a lot more gentle than say if you were uncoordinated. A lot less violent on the spins. As you can tell, the airplane's kind of screaming at me now, so... But I would actually recommend just coming on single player sometimes and flying around and seeing how well you can actually keep the ball in the center the entire time you fly during different maneuvers, and it'll build up your foot coordination really quickly, especially if you use rudder pedals. And it's a big thing with aerial gunnery. You always, 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 unless it's a special exception, want to shoot with the ball centered. If you don't, this is what's going to happen. We'll have the ball deflected off to the right here, just slightly. You see the vertical bar there for the gun sight? That's going to split the left and the right sides. So the bullet should, with the ball off to the right, skew off to the right. We'll see what it does. See, most of the explosions are off to the right. And same thing conversely to the left. All your shots are going to go left of your sight. And I mean, unless you have a shot that you just want to like lay into somebody just spraying like this, just stick a line of death out in front of them. That shot's really not going to work. It's an incredibly hard shot to make. we'll pick out a tree over here real quick, and I'll show you. Keeping it centered makes your gun sight much more accurate as well, especially the closer you get. See, it's got it centered. Bullets are converging on both sides of my gun sight, but that's just because I have such a low convergence set on here. But they actually do fly down the center. The third thing I want to talk about real quick is trim. A lot of people don't use trim to shoot. I personally do. I feel like it makes my my life a lot easier flying the plane. That's one less thing I have to think about. So I'm already managing prop pitch, radiators, all manner of different things at once, and while trying to maneuver the plane, while trying to keep track of another target. You know, I'm all for making it simple on myself. So let's go back to that house real quick, and I'll show you what I mean. Ideally, you want to trim for hands-off flight. It really helps with the gunnery in that the airplane's a lot more stable to shoot with. Like I'm going to trim right now, just using a couple buttons that I have on my stick to hold the gun sight on the house there. If I can get it up, there we go. And you can hold it all day long. You can pick out windows, whatever you want. And the plane will stay there. You'll have time to think about other things, like I say, radiator, prop pitch management, what you're going to have for dinner tonight, that kind of thing, the important things. Other guys, they tend to like to actually throw in negative trim or positive trim, nose up or nose down, and fly like that. I'll spin a little bit of nose down trim in, and I'll show you. I don't think it's quite as smooth doing this, and you have to work a lot harder. But like I say, everybody's different. The nose tends to bounce a lot on me when I do this, so I can't hold a target quite as well as I can when I have it trimmed out. So I'm having to constantly fight it. So that's just me. Like I say, trim's a definite plus. Keeps you much more steady for much longer. You can actually, if you have a guy turning in front of you and you want to make that tracking shot, you can just trim out to where the gun sight's matched his turn, and then when you get to your gun range that you want to shoot him at, you just add up a little nose trim and fire, and you're set, and you'll hold it right on him the whole time. Well, let's talk a little bit about convergences. I picked out a diagram I found on the 1C forums to talk about that. So I give you my convergences. Like I say, it's incredibly personal to each shooter individually. Sorry, my tracker are wigged out there. Everybody's going to shoot a little bit different. I know everybody's, or a lot of people have tried out other people's convergences. And there's people, even in my squad, that are constantly trying out new ones that other people use. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I would just say use what works for you. Hop on like a single-player mission and put labels on, or go to the AX Dogfight server. That's a good one, with the distance markers on. One thing I found when I did that was I actually didn't shoot that far out. I shot really close. I had my convergences way out, and I could hit people there, but I honestly never really did it. I tend to shoot a lot more closer now, and so I've set my convergences accordingly. So let's go on and let's talk about that real quick. Hey guys, here's that diagram I was talking about. It's a pretty simple diagram, but it illustrates the vertical and horizontal convergence pretty well. We'll start with the vertical convergence, basically dealing with the vertical bars on your gun sight. You are looking at this diagram. You've got the green for cannons, blue for the nose guns, and of course the red going straight across the diagram for your gun sight. This guy evidently has 400 meters in there for both his cannon and machine guns. And this is the point I want to get across with the vertical convergence. It can be pretty important, actually, based on the different trajectories of the actual rounds themselves. Machine guns tend to be a lot flatter trajectory than, say, the cannons, I guess, because of the mass and the size of the round. To get to 400, it needs to arc a lot less than, say, the cannons do. in this example, it looks like his cannons at 400 meters convergence probably cross at about 150 meters or so, 160 meters out. And at that point where it crosses the gun sight, that's going to be in the center. It's basically like a clock that's stopped. It's going to be right 2 times a day. So no matter what your convergence is, I actually have my my convergence is set out to 500 meters. So mine's going to converge probably a little bit further out, but you know, honestly, it's like I was talking about earlier, it's not an exact science. I mean, it can be if you want it to be, but when things are moving so quick and distances are changing really, really fast, it's not going to be easy to sit there and calculate these things out on like a slide rule and get an exact number each time. So, like I say, 30, 40, even 50 meters on each side is probably not going to make that much difference. Because as you see on the diagram, maybe for 10 meters or so, it's actually in the bullseye, the crosshair there, as it makes this angle over and then down at 400 meters again to the center of the gun sight. And like I say, this is all just vertical too. You can actually use this to your advantage, and you can stick it up to a higher number or a lower number depending on how much lead you actually want to put, or if you want to try to keep more of your leading shots in sight as opposed to going below the nose blisters of the machine guns there. Horizontal convergence is pretty simple. It's going to cross basically at one point, and you ideally want your bullets all to converge at a single point. And this is a really important one to me. I put mine out to 150 meters for my horizontal convergences. For my cannons, my machine guns are 300 meters, but that's just because I like to shoot the machine guns a lot further than I do the cannons. You've got 60 seconds of fire in the 109, and if you just want to poke at somebody, I mean, you have a lot of rounds to poke at them with. So I tend to use those pretty liberally as opposed to the cannons. So I like the cannons to be the kill shot, basically. That's about it for the convergences, though. Like I say, everybody uses probably a different convergence. I'll go over mine here real quick one more time. My machine guns are 300 horizontal convergence and a 400 vertical, and my cannons are 150 horizontal and 500 vertical. So just to touch on belting a little bit, what kind of ammo you want. Honestly, I'm of the school of thought, if you get 2 to 3 seconds fire on somebody, the guy's going to go down. Doesn't matter what you use. Training rounds, harsh language, he's going to go down. The main thing I try to get across is just at least have these 3 types of rounds in some order. I don't even know of a big difference between them. Just have an armor piercing, an incendiary, and a explosive round. And like I say, the order I don't think really makes that much difference, honestly. As long as you get the amount of fire on them. I'm talking about 1 or 2, maybe in 3 seconds, and they'll go down. For cannons, I do tend to prefer the explosive rounds more. For the E4s, especially the Maishikos, is particularly effective. Only catch is it doesn't have a tracer, and I'll actually put different rounds in there just to give me a tracer, so I can kind of gauge exactly where my bullets are going, since it's I actually prefer to shoot with tracer. So anyway, that's about all on that. Let's go to a video here on of me on the ATAG server, and I'll show you kind of my thought process and how I approach a shot, with a live target. Hey guys, before we get into the ATAG video, let's talk just a second about the mindset or the mentality you need really for being in here. I know it goes into a lot of psychology and stuff like that, but the idea here is to keep yourself on the offensive. Be the proactive player at all times. The mindset I typically have is everybody on the server is already my victim when I come on. I just have to prove it to them. And, you should too. You should have that same kind of mentality. That way you're always geared toward the offensive. You should never really let yourself slip into a defensive frame of mind. even when you're maneuvering defensive and you have a Spitfire crawling up your 6 or something really close, hammering away at you, you always have to be thinking, okay, what can I do next to get this guy out in front of my guns, rather than what can I just do to survive at this point. If you keep that mentality, I guarantee your air victories will go way up, or at least the air victory count. The other thing I want to talk about is the way I shoot. The gun sight. It's got the 4 bars, horizontal and vertical. Usually I wait till I'm pretty close to shoot. I use the gun sight though as a measuring device to figure out exactly how fast the bandit speed is relative to mine. And once I can figure that out, I can compute a lead solution pretty easy in my mind. The main thing is though, for accurate shooting, you want to try to extend the line horizontally along his fuselage. So basically extend a line from his tail through his prop out into infinity along the flight path you think he's going to take. If he's turning with you, it's going to be a curve. If he's flying straight, of course, it's going to be a straight line. But once you can figure that out and shoot along that path and get your nose and your guns pointed in that direction before he gets there, it's going to make your shooting a lot more accurate. And it's going to save you a lot of time and trouble and energy trying to dogfight with people. Because typically in the 109, you want to avoid dogfights if at all possible. Okay, I know I've said the ATAG video is coming up next, so here it is anyway. Just a few short clips of me on here trying to demonstrate all the stuff I was talking about earlier, especially the prediction, using trim, staying coordinated, firing, just staying aggressive as well. Here we have a Hurricane here. He's in a right-hand bank, pretty sharp. I've managed to figure out he's probably going to stay along that line that just flashed. So I'll fire off a few rounds. You got him, but he's still low, Jimmy.
Fucking act out.
There's a Spitfire circling around below me. I've got a wingman. He's up here with me, but I'm solo for right now.
You're not solo. This thing starts.
Same thing. Using the gun sight to gauge his speed from me. Figured that out. Figured out his path. Jump out in front and fire. Here we go. Just slightly slower again. I'm extending that line mentally out from his fuselage to figure out about where he's going to be and where I want to intersect. So right about there, fire, boom. There you go. Here's a little bit different of a scenario. This is more of a snapshot. You typically don't do a lot of damage on these, but the scenario had two wingmen coming in. And I was just trying to keep this Hurricane busy.
5K, Hurricane, alright, slightly low.
So basically, I'm just trying to keep him on the defensive. Keep him low on energy by just taking shots at him. Just see here, I'm going to pass right on top of him, just a quick burst. Looks like I got him in the wing, but nothing too serious. I'll come back up. Hurricane is going to turn back toward me. Staying aggressive, still trying to keep pressure on the guy so my wingman can get there. He's going to present another shot for me here. This time I'm just going to use machine guns. It's going to be kind of a harder shot. I feel like he's going to go down like most Brits do in that diving turn, so I just go on and lead that ahead of time.
And the fucking prick's out turned me on another 109. God.
This one's a little harder in that the spit goes under the nose for so long, but once again, all I've done is I've predicted his flight path, gotten my nose to where I feel like his flight path's going to go, and my bullets are going to intersect, and I fire. Right there. And honestly, that's about all it is. It's a lot of practice in it, but it's a big mental game, really. And like I say, you can make it into a science if you want to, but it's I definitely think it's more of an art, being able to shoot well. So many variables to take in, calculating it just slows me down. So anyway, I hope this video's helped out, and I hope you might have picked something up from it. I know it was real basic, more like I say, rule of thumbs than straight up. This is how you do it. This is the golden bullet to use. But unfortunately, I don't know any of that. So if I did, I guarantee I would have passed that on before now. So anyway, like I say, hope you picked up a few things about aerial gunnery and the mindset and how you should approach it. Anyway, have a good one. Cool hand out.